You realize everybody in our world is talking about isolation these days? From city planners who are trying to figure out how to retro-engineer cities to make for dwelling places for people who no longer want to live in family homes, they want to live by themselves, all the way to restaurateurs who are trying to figure out how to design restaurants for the majority of their customers and their clients that now want to dine alone and without anybody else. The pull towards isolation is changing our whole world. And I'm not a sociologist, but it feels like it's coming from two places. It feels like, one, the pull of polarization and cancel culture in our world. Relationships don't feel as safe as they used to feel. Like, you can't be the real you with anybody you're around, because the chances are you might struggle with something or believe something or say something that could get you canceled or fired. So you just self-isolate to save yourself the pain. In our world, we've forgotten that disagreement, even about fundamental things, is not the same thing as hate. To hold our disagreements on the surface rather than hiding them and choosing not to let them separate us, however hard they are. And our world has forgotten that, and it's pulling us apart. It's one of the ways. The other thing that I think is causing this is just the upward mobility, moving from place to place, and even the architecture in our world that has moved us, even in our neighborhoods, from the front porch to the backyard for privacy's sake. One of my neighbors even add to that the rise of technology, the ability to do work virtually. One of my neighbors was telling our community group the other night, I've really got to work hard to even come up with creative reasons to leave the house during the week. As a result, a recent report I read said that more than 50% of Americans say that they're chronically lonely. We've never had it better, and we've never been more miserable. Generation Z is supposedly the loneliest, angriest, saddest generation so far in all of human history. Isolation's not working. Rather than protest it, though, look what Paul invites Christ's followers to do. He invites us to live a better story. Now, about your love for one another. That's the Greek word Philadelphia. It means brotherly love, family love for other people that are like family, yeah? Now, about your love for one another, we don't need to write you, for you yourselves have been taught by God to love. This is the word agape, sacrificial love for people that are hard to love. You learned from God to do that. And in fact, you do love all of God's family throughout Macedonia. And yet, we urge you, brothers and sisters, to do so more and more. Paul says, you guys are doing this. We don't need to write you. We talked about it in chapter 1, the prototype. They were loving each other like family, loving hard-to-love people sacrificially, inviting others into their circles. It's a pull for all of us, isn't it? We just want to narrow the circle or close the circle once we're comfortable with it, just kind of close it off. That's why Paul uses the word urge there. I urge you to do this more and more. It's not natural. It's not normal. Like, you got people on your street who are living bad news stories, believing that they're good news stories. And if our answer for who's going to show them, who's going to tell them, is always someone else somewhere else, they, much less us, may miss out on some of the greatest joy that's available. Paul invites us to commit to loving each other like family, and to love hard to love people sacrificially, and to do it more and more and more. We've got to commit to that as the church. We've got to invest in that. We've got to find creative ways to extend that to a world who's desperate for it but doesn't realize it or know where to find it.